Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. Woo! So some of you are not going to get that, but some of you that been here for a while will. And anyway, it's a steaming one today. I don't know how hot it got where I am, but it was, at least that I know of, is 91. And so anyway, but this is, Starlight is at a nice little shady spot with a nice little breeze out here. So thank you to all of you who have been here loving and supporting Starlight. And especially those of you who have been here for a very long time and you're still here with Starlight. And also the ones that have been here in the middle, or maybe you just recently joined me. Thank you for all of you. And before I start this message, hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and you could find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, don't forget the notification bell, and you can leave me a message down below, beep, 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 and you can share my videos with your family or friends. Plus, don't forget my playlist, and you can also find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. And now, also, if anybody would love to send any love donations, you can through my Cash App, and I will have that information here. Ping, there it is. And now today is about, we all have this problem at some time in our life, mainly in the beginning of our life, and sometimes through our whole life. So this is about, don't be afraid to express yourself. It is so important. And so right now, it's amazing. I've been on this, mission with the universe, and I had lots of lessons to learn. And right now, I'm going through like training and being tested in so many ways, like we all, we all get tested. So we all get tested, and we all have lessons to learn. And there's sometimes, especially if you're out there like I am, let's see if that's going to stay. When you're on your mission with God, starting out in life, it's really hard to have a voice, depending on what kind of mommy and daddy you had, or even step parents, because I'll tell you, you could have had like a mom and dad. Sometimes we got, dominant males that have no problem expressing themselves as daddies, or men. Or it could have been a flip. You could have been with a dominant woman, mother, of course, if you're out there, some people, talking about parents being grown up is just a mom, a dominant mother, where she could have had really a voice, and expressed herself, and you knew it, but not all parents have that. So with that being said, if you came from parents that weren't very vocal, it's going to be a challenge for you, and those will be lessons, things that you got to learn, through life. And it's painful. It is painful is to come from families that they didn't have a voice of their own to teach their children to express themselves. So what ends up happening when we don't express ourselves and say, being authentic and real and honest with people, people run right over you. So it's so vitally important. There's so many things that happen to people because they don't express themselves, and so this is about expressing yourself to people in an adult manner. We don't have to be rude, but it can be challenging to express yourself, get your point across, don't beat around the bush, and let people know exactly how you feel. Oops, sorry. So, it's hot out, it's sweaty out here, but my pants are like my shorts. So anyway, this video is to inspire you to not be afraid to tell people. You know, it could be your mom and dad. It could be the guy or the girl that you're dating. It could be your big brother, or even big brother. Could even be an officer. Could be the pastor at the church. Could be your sister. It could be your kids. You know, we all go through this at one point or many times. You know, somewhere in your life you struggled with expressing yourself, not lying about things. You know, and that Starlight, my whole life, what people did to me, I never, you know, expressed myself. I just held it in. And then there's a big ass mountain that, you know, I had lots of mountains that people, you know, this is a mountain from that person. There's a mountain, oh, this is a big, huge mountain from that person. You know, I had all these mountains, you know, because I wasn't expressing myself. You know, there's times, like I said, we come from families that, you know, you could have a mom and a dad, like I said, that didn't express themselves. They might have learned that later on when you're not even there anymore, you know, when you grow, you know, when you're on your own, you know, where you don't really, you know, you didn't learn anything from them when you were little. And then, you know, as you get older, you know, depending on if they're honest people or not, you know, people have different ways to express themselves, but you don't want to be afraid to express yourself. You, and it's so important. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself. And what happens is a lot of times we're afraid. We're afraid. We are afraid, and that's why we never say anything. We're afraid because, you know, like myself, is that I don't like confrontation. It's uncomfortable. Isn't it uncomfortable? Confrontation? Can't stand it. I'm all about love and peace and harmony, you know, being gentle with people and understanding people. But not everybody is like that. You know, what's really hard is when you're dealing with people that aren't being honest with you. And you know what? Don't be afraid to let them know that, you know what, I'm on you. You know, let these people know that I'm on you. You know, you know, you got to express yourself with people. It could be, you know, a friend, somebody that you call a friend. It could be your parents. It could be your brother and sister. There's times that people fear, you know, their brothers and sisters, their mom or dad, of what they're going to say. And that's the test. Those are the tests. You're going to be tested all the time. How about at work? You know, you want to get a raise. You know, you've been putting extra hours, but you're going to be tested. You know, all the time we're being tested. You know, it's a test because you know that you deserve more money, or you need that position. You know, and sorry. Oh man. So have you ever been afraid to go to the boss and say, hey, you know what? I've been working here how many years? I deserve a raise. I deserve a raise. You know, it is scary, isn't it? Scary to just go to a boss and say, you know what? I'm asking for a raise. I've been putting extra time. I always show up. I don't have problems with people. I get along with everybody. I'm a respected person. I deserve a raise. You know, you need to, you know, and you might have to practice it. You know, my brother, he's no longer here, but it really did help me out, is to look in the mirror, and whoever you're dealing with is, you know, or you don't have to use the mirror, but it really helped me out, is by practicing in the mirror. And, you know, don't put these things off, because I'll tell you what, that's what happens to most of us, and I've done that many times. I'm like, you know, today I'm gonna say something today. When I go there today, I'm gonna say something. And the funny thing is that I learned in my past, those days that I said that I was gonna say something, you know, it was so weird. People were being so kind and so sweet, and then I didn't want to ruin the mood, you know. it was like this, oh, now everybody's going great, and now I want to spill the beans. But everybody's, like, at that moment, everybody's getting along and having fun, and I don't want to spoil the moment. What do you do now? Oh, that's a test. That's a test. Because if you don't do it then, you're not going to do it. I'll do it the next time. Next time comes, some other kind of thing happens, You want to tell somebody something, and then people show up, and now you can't, and then you're like, I really wanted to say something this time, but you didn't know that somebody was going to show up at the house, and now you can't say shit because it's none of their business, right? It's none of their business. And that's the whole thing, is you need to express yourself. People that are not being honest with you, let them know. Why? You know what? I'm tired of being around people that are, you could talk like this. I am tired of being around people that are dishonest. I am sorry, but I cannot be around people that are being dishonest to me. I'm giving that up. I can't spend time with people like that. You could talk in the air. You don't even have to talk to them, but you're giving them a message. And then you know what? You could disappear. Phew, where did Starlight go? Huh? Where did she go? They got the message. There's so many different ways that you could get your point across. You're afraid of having confrontation. You're afraid to get in an argument with them. Well, that's a good way of doing it. Okay, like I was saying, is what Starlight did a lot when she was younger. I had the fear of telling people how I felt, and there's many times that I was dealing with these problems for a long time, and I was trying to build up enough courage to actually express myself, because really, especially when I was younger, I am a very sensitive Virgo here. And but when I was younger, wow, I was really, very sensitive. And now my skin has gotten a little tougher. So I have to say my skin has gotten a little bit tougher. My skin got thicker. And but when I was younger, people would do all kinds of crazy, just like you guys, and girls, where you get people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And if you're like a empath like I am, a sensitive person, is that you could go home and cry a river, about how people treated you, what they said, what they did, and that's why, we really got to do something about it. And because those people, especially if you're going to spend more time with those people, if they're lying to you, you got to, let them know that you're on their stuff. But there's ways sometimes, even though you might have fear of saying, hey, why are you, I don't like confrontation. That's the biggest problem, is I don't like confrontation, because there's people that play head games. You can catch them right in a bold ass lie, and they always got something to say, and it doesn't even, they will lie. They will lie their way out of anything. And so there's people out there like that you don't want to waste your time with, those kind of people, when they're just going to play head games with you, and the whole time that you're on to them, but they just continually will lie about everything. You could catch them right, with their hand in the cookie jar. No matter what, they will freaking lie about, that wasn't my hand in the there would be some kind of answer, to try to get out of that situation, even though you caught them red-handed, so those kind of people that you do need to set straight, because you're wasting your time and your energy around people, and you need to express yourself. So don't be afraid to express yourself. And like what I was saying earlier, before my phone kind of shut off because I had to delete videos and pictures, is that I used to do storytelling time with people. And so I would think of I would have to say they were true stories, but I would create a story, and it would have a message in the story. So that way, when I'm telling them, yeah, I was talking to this person, I might have made that part up, I was talking to this person, and then I would create a story about the point, or even think of a real true event that really happened in my past, and tell them about that story with somebody else. Use that other person a long time ago. I knew they were lying, they try to act like they, add to the story, do whatever. But that was my old version of myself. And but there's people that you do have to just point blank say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I really can't spend time with you because, you know what, I've been working on myself, and I'm an honest person. When there's people out there that are lying to you to your face, or even other people could know that they're lying, Everybody knows that the person's lying, but you're the only one that's really frustrated with it, You gotta speak up. You gotta say something. You gotta let that person know that, I'm sorry, but I can't spend time with you because I don't, my time is so precious and valuable that, there's people out there, they have addictions of lying, and that's what they've done their whole entire life. And you got to let those people go. You got to protect your energy around those people, but don't be afraid to let these people know, no matter what's going on, and it goes with couples, do you have a hard time, couples, it's so important to, and you got to do this right away, it's important. The quicker that you do this, the better off it is. But you got to really think about what you're speaking about. You really got to know that you got to have the facts. You got to have all, the proof. Make sure, you could prove what you're saying to them. If, you got a problem with somebody, make sure you, like a police officer, get all the evidence, blah, 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 you got this, you got all this evidence, about, what they're doing, and, that way, and you got to think about how you want to put that out there, is to be mindful of how you want to put it out there and be wise to getting it out, and because people are sly, and I am so sorry, that was a huge fly. Holy cow. Starlight does not like flies, and there's a lot of bugs out here. I have not been out here, but but you know what, expressing yourself is a part of healing. And if you're dealing with people like in relationships, is that you got to make sure it's a private conversation with that person, and just let them know, whatever it is that you're dealing with that particular person, because we all have people in our, in our life that, and it's all different stories, different things that they're, you need to communicate with, but you really need to let them know. And because if you don't let them know how you feel about what they're doing to you, they're just going to repeat it over and over again. And then there's times that you got to let these people go, because you know what? There's people, they have never changed. They're the same person that you knew, long time ago. There ain't no change in that person. They got, you don't want to waste your time and your energy around people that are the same person, you knew a long time ago, and they're the same way, because apparently there's a problem there. And so you got to really be wise when talking to people. And I think I don't know if I got that one or not. I'm so sorry, but if I got that one, my hand would have been a mess. So I think I missed that one. But yeah, Starlight doesn't mess with flies. So anyway, you don't be afraid to use your voice and express yourself, even in scary situations like even an officer, but be wise what you say and with an officer, because they can hold that against you. So be smart what you say to any situation, and think before you speak, especially with officers and stuff like that. But you don't want to keep on holding this stuff in, because it's a part of your healing. It's a part of healing things, and it could be things that you're healing from even childhood stuff, especially if it's dealing with family members, so you got to tell people, sometimes you can even tell people, hey, you know why I don't come around much? Well, this is why I don't come around much. You know why I left? Well, this is why I left. People need to answer to their own stuff that they're doing, and if you are a good example to them, and they're not respecting you enough to, give that kind of same energy back by making up stories and lying about stuff, you're wasting your time with those people. They need to hear it, because there's people out there, they don't go to church to go get help. They don't go on the internet to get help. So you could be the help for them by letting them know that, sorry, but you know what? I can't keep company with you. Why? Well, because you always do this. You've always done this. You haven't even changed. I'm sorry, but I need to protect my energy. I can't be around people that are lying to me, or there's times that people will spread lies about people, and other people believe their shit, even though that they know that this person is a liar. So they will ruin your reputation, and they don't care. So you really do. You gotta protect yourself. Sorry, I got this big ass fly that's probably mad at me, but that's okay. So I love you. Don't be afraid to tell people, because you know what? You're gonna regret it. And you don't need those kind of people in your life. If they can't be honest with you, and if they're the types of people that are just ruining your reputation or ruining relationships with other people, you're wasting your time with these people. They do not care about you. They are all about themselves. And those people, I can't tell you what to do, but really, those are the people you got to let go, because it's damaging to your own well-being, your own emotional well-being. So you really got to let these people know what they are doing and how it makes you feel. And you don't have to spend time with them. It's all up to you. I can't force you to do any of this stuff. You might have parents that you're battling with, afraid to, you've been holding it in your whole life. Now it's time to actually express yourself. How about, your relatives, family members, they're looking at you as an old version. You're not an old version anymore. You've changed, but they're the same. Let them know. I've grown up, man. I'm not 4 years old anymore. I'm not 5 years anymore. That person that you knew a long time ago, that's not me anymore. So, you need to express yourself. And you know what? I don't put up with that shit anymore. Yeah, I did before. I held it in. It's not good to hold all that stuff in. You got to release it by expressing yourself. So don't feel guilty. You'll feel better. When you get done doing this, you will feel amazing later on. You'll be able, you know what? I've been holding this shit my whole life. Now I feel proud of myself, because you know what? I actually expressed myself. And I did it in a good way. I said what I didn't have to yell, I didn't have to scream, but I got it out, because that's a part of healing. That's what you want. You want to heal from stuff, because there's people out there, lots of people, lots of families out there. They're afraid to tell their parents, how they feel. They're afraid to tell their big brother how they feel, or their sister. Don't hold that in. I've been actually really honest, and it's very hard. It's not easy. I've been telling people that, you know what? I don't want to talk about that. I'm not, if you guys are going to gossip, I don't want to talk. I'm not going to be gossiping. I don't want to be an ear to all that stuff. They need to know, you know what? Because when you tell them, they're like, you know what? And you know what? You repeat it again. If they try to bring up this stuff, sorry, but I'm not gonna say anything about that. I ain't got nothing to say about that stuff. You don't want to be around that stuff. It's really toxic energy. So don't be afraid to express yourself and tell people, in a good way. So I love you so much, and you'll feel better. You'll thank yourself, because it's a part of healing that we all need. I love you so much. This is Starlight Namaste. This is Starlight Love, Light, and Peace. Thank you for watching. This is Starlight Namaste. This is Starlight Love, Light, and Peace.